Yes. So we start. I start here. So what is that? So why do I have this? I need to click. So we start. So you already received the documents. And the documents are mostly the videos. Because it's better to see anatomy with a 3D video. For the books, you can find books of anatomy and you have 2D. So we better. So we have at the back of the side, we have 3 big muscles and they work all together. Outside we have the biceps femoris, and in the middle we have the semitendinosus because it is full of tendons and it looks more like a tendon than a muscle. This is why it has its name. And inside we have the semimembranosus because it is softer, it's more like a membrane. It has a particularity is that the 3 of them start on the sitting bone. And the 3 of them finish across the knee because their action is to flex the knee. That means bring the heel closer to the sitting bone. But this inner muscle, whatever its name, doesn't really matter. This inner muscle has a tendon that attaches very much across the knee joint and has a curve. So that means that when we are going to contract this muscle, it's going to rotate our foot inward. It's going to create an inner rotation. And that means that if your knee is not, if your foot is fixed on the floor, then your knee will turn, but not your foot. And I say in yoga, I recommend that you move the foot at the same time as the knee for safety reasons. We don't want to have movements of the knee laterally. We want to extend the knee and flex the knee. That means this is extend and this is flex. That's all we want. And so these 3 muscles in yoga have to work together and not separately. And this is why the alignment of the foot is very important. And that our knee should always be above our toes. And so we should not turn the foot outward more than the knee, or inward also more than the knee. And this is why the position of the foot is fundamental, because according to the direction of your foot, you are going to activate more the outer muscle or more the inner muscle. And most people, they just turn their foot outside when they want to stretch the hamstring, and they only stretch the outer muscle. So this is for the alignment. This muscle, let me get back. If I go back to my documents, I just use my memory. Why is it so important to stretch the hamstring? Is that if your hamstrings are tight, instead of bending from the hip joint, you're going to bend from the waist. And I have already taught a lot of yoga therapy classes, and they are always one-on-one. Because 2 people with the same pain, if I can say, will have 2 different reactions. For example, you may have someone who loves the back bends, and you will have someone who feels pain in the back bend. So the yoga therapy has to be taught one-on-one. And the first thing I check in people who have back pain is the state of their hamstring. And how do I do that? I put them flat on the floor. Flat on the floor means that the waist is not on the floor. There is the natural curve that we call the anatomical curve. That means the waist is off the floor. Be careful, because when these people are going to bring the leg up, if they have tight hamstring, they will round their waist, although they are in the lying position. they will do the same thing that they do when they are standing. And so sometimes I may even put a rolled towel under their waist to make sure that they are not rounding their back. And you ask them to bring one knee bent and then stretch the leg. Don't bring the leg up like this. This is more difficult. So bending one knee and then stretching the leg. And you see, we consider normal flexibility when they can have 90-degree angle. When the leg has 90-degree angle, this is considered a normal flexibility. And you will notice that these people who have back pain, they usually don't reach the 90-degree angle. So then you have those people who have more than 90-degree angle, the leg comes closer to the face, and these people are on the flexible side. And so this bending from the waist and 90-degree angle is those two elements that we want to reach when we teach hamstring postures. When a person has tight hamstrings, the sitting asanas are absolutely useless because we will need the gravity. We will need to pull this hamstring, to stretch the hamstring, to use the weight of the upper body as they bend forward. A person who has tight hamstring, when they are sitting, you notice that their sacrum goes backward. Okay? And therefore, the weight of their upper body cannot help them. The sitting asanas, they are only valuable for someone who has already reached a 45-degree angle of forward flexion. As long as they have not reached that angle, you don't teach sitting postures. You are going to use the gravity. So basically, what do we have? Remember, we had the Ardha Hanumanasana, that one. And make sure that they start with the knee relaxed and flatten the back. They should even have a little sensation of back bend in their waist. And they should have that sensation. And you ask them to keep that sensation, because when they straighten their legs, by contracting the quadriceps, they are going to round from the back, from the waist also. But at that level, it's okay, because we have to first start with that. It will take time before they keep their back flat. That means before the hamstring is long. And always use the movement and the breath. And you remember why we exhale when we straighten the legs? You remember that the relaxation of a muscle is connected to the exhalation, because the exhalation is connected to the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the relax, rest, and digest also. And so when we want to open a big joint or stretch a big muscle, we exhale. So have them move for some time, some repetitions, like 5 times is okay. Inhaling, soften the knee. And that would be better than bend the knee, just soften the knee. That means you relax your hamstring, you're not stretching it, and you flatten the back. And then as you exhale, have your heels slide on the floor. And you keep moving like this for 5 times. After 5 times, you have to stay. And you notice that a muscle, even a joint, by the way, relaxes after 1 minute. After 1 minute. And you remember also that if we want to relax the hamstring, that must be relaxed if it wants to stretch. It has to be relaxed. You need to activate the opposite muscle, the antagonist muscle, you remember. So if you have a passive stretch, you will not lengthen your hamstring. And so you have to say, activate your quadriceps, activate your quadriceps. It's not a big activation, it's not a big contraction, but it's an activation. Like this, it's the opposite of the stretch reflex. The message goes from the nervous system, it goes to the spinal cord, and it sends a message to the hamstring, relax, because the quadriceps is contracted the hamstring relax. You notice if you stay for 1 minute that the person might have a sort of 5 millimeters and some people even 1 centimeter of going deeper. And so keep them for a minimum 30 seconds, minimum half a minute. And you notice that after 1 minute, then definitely there is a stretch of the hamstring. You have to do it many times. So this is for the Ardha Hanumanasana. They will still bend their waist a little bit, but that's okay. Then we have the second one, which is the whole Parsvottanasana. And you remember, the full Parsvottanasana, that standing posture where you have your hands on the floor or on blocks, might not be enough for someone with very tight hamstrings, like the photos I showed you with the guy bending from the waist, and he had the back like a camel's hump. And so instead of going so far with the hands on the floor, even on blocks, you have the hands against the wall. And people with tight hamstring, they feel a deep, deep stretch. So this is another method. Make sure that they have their hips square, like Ardha Hanumanasana. That means that the line of the hips has a 90-degree angle to the line of the spine. That's what it means. Because they will tend to bring the hip of that leg forward. And so you have to perhaps even use your hands to help them bring that leg, that hip back. And so the hips and the spine must have a 90-degree angle and not a sort of angle like that, right? Okay, so this is the second posture, and the third posture will be lying on the back and using a strap. And the best strap would be actually, if you could have a thicker strap so that you can grab the heel. This is far better. You grab the heel. And same thing, you move. And you remember that here in the lying position, we can also stress the 3 muscles separately. You remember that we can turn the foot in by rolling the strap inside, inward. And so in that case, your student will stretch the inner thigh muscle, which is the semimembranosus. Then in the middle, you will stretch mostly the central muscle, but also the 2 side muscles. And then with the strap that you roll outside, you will have the foot turning outside, and you can stretch this outer muscle, the biceps femoris. So this is also a very good way. This side stretches, you can also do this also in Ardha Hanumanasana. You remember? Ardha Hanumanasana, you have the 2 blocks on each side of your foot, but you can also bring the 2 blocks inside to a sort of 30 to 45-degree angle. And you move, you stretch, you move, you stretch, you move, you stretch. And more difficult, you have the blocks outside. And so here the angle is limited by your hip movement. And again, you bend, you stretch, you bend, you straighten, you bend, you straighten. Now, do these 3. These are the best ones. You can also use a chair, having the heel on the chair of a person, of the chair, and bending and stretching a little wall, any piece of furniture, everything is okay. It will take time, but the hamstring is something very, very irregular. I've seen people getting much more flexible in 1 week, and I've seen people getting much more flexible in 1 year, and you don't know. My experience is that those people who became flexible very quickly were very young people. It seems that later it's more difficult. It's probably more difficult. The length of the muscle also depends on the connective tissues. And the fascia, you remember we spoke about the fascia, which is this white envelope that wraps even a muscle cell, and then a bundle of cells, and then a bundle of cells, and finally the whole muscle. And it is said that this is where we store the emotional memory. And so as we get older, we of course have more and more experiences, and not always good experiences. And we probably store more and more negative emotions, which might stiffen the whole thing, okay? But some people also have a capacity for relaxing more easily than others. This is also something to learn. The second element in stretching the hamstring is the hip flexibility, because when we bend forward, we bend from the hip. And when you notice that your student has increased that hamstring flexibility, so again, you will put your student flat on the back, on her back, and you ask her to bring one leg up, so bend the knee, then exhale, straighten the leg. Now suppose that the leg is at a 45-degree angle. She has improved a lot. And this is now the progress will be slower. The first progress will be quick. The second progress from 45 to the full Hanumanasana, for example, will take longer. And that there are two origins for that. Perhaps it is still the hamstring which is tight. Perhaps this is the hip that cannot bend more. And so you remember what you do to test if it is the hamstring or if it is the hip. That person is lying on the back, and you just have her bend the knee to a 90-degree angle. So she has the thigh in this direction and the upper leg vertical. So now by bending the knee, she's not stretching the hamstring, right? The hamstring is relaxed. You press the knee down and see. And you will find a blockage. If you find a blockage, it's a bony blockage on the hip. And so you know that this person cannot go any deeper. And that she cannot stretch her hamstring more because this is a bony limitation from the hip joint. You need also for yourself, when you do your self-practice, to feel this bony stop. And make sure that you develop your sensations enough so that you don't confuse a muscle limitation, muscle cannot stretch anymore, with a bone stop. The bone stop, you stop. It's a bone. It's not going to get any more flexible. And so this is something that you have to develop in your self-practice. And it can take some time, because we are not used to experiencing this kind of sensations. Is it a bony stop or is it a muscle limitation? If you notice that it is a bony stop, you stop. This hamstring will not stretch any longer. But if not, yeah, keep going, keep going. Now, when the person has been able to get comfortably to 90-degree angle, you know that she's not going to bend from the waist any that much. And that will save her lower back for later. Lower back pain affects, they say, 90% of Americans, since all the statistics are in the United States. And definitely when you see how people bend forward, then this is no wonder. Safe is to bend forward with the back flat. And remember that the most dangerous postures, do you remember what they are? Do you remember? Bending forward and twisting. So when you pick up a heavy object from the floor, the object has to be in front of you, that you are not bending and twisting at the same time. And same thing in yoga. That means that when people engage in a twist, whatever twist, make sure that their back is absolutely flat. So this is the twist anatomy, and we're not getting there, right? So we have those two elements. So remember that the Ardha Hanumanasana, the half one, is better than the full one. The full one, you can practice if your student has over 45-degree angle. Otherwise, the Ardha Hanumanasana remains the best. So we only have those three. As for the sitting, the very famous Paschimottanasana, that one, which is taught in all classes and that never leads to any improvement. You can never stretch your hamstring with Paschimottanasana. I have a special class which is only for this sitting posture. And actually, this is good that I'm against the wall, but I start with one leg. I don't stretch the two legs at the same time. There. And I have the students put their hands pushing the wall. Because by pushing the wall, you see what happened? My chest comes forward. And as long as I push the wall, I'm not rounding my back. And so here I would bend my knee, there, and pushing the wall, exhale and see how far I can stretch my leg. This is to retrain your students, because when a person has rounded the back for years, they don't understand when you say keep your back flat. Do it, that's it. So you bend the knee and you push the wall. Bend the knee first. Yeah, push the wall. And now exhale and straighten the leg. And now what you feel is a real hamstring stretch. And so if you bring your bottom closer and closer and closer, you can bend deeper and deeper and deeper. So this is something I do. It would be a krama. I will start with some standing warm up for the hamstring. In front of you, the leg, and not sideways. This would be Janu Sirsasana, like that. Hips are, of course, parallel to the floor. You would do one leg, you would do the other leg. And finally, you can do Paschimottanasana, the two legs. Still like that. Provided that your student has a 90-degree angle, this exercise would not be very useful if your student is still rounding the back with the sacrum going backward. You bend the knee, you push the floor, and as you exhale, you slide the heels, and then you get closer and closer. You push the wall, you bend the knees, and slide the heels with the exhalation. And you notice that you go deeper and deeper. You have a deeper and deeper sensation. So this is for the hamstring. And perhaps we can